Here goes nothing. I feel like I'm recording the first episode of Digging Deep again, but this is the first time recording it in a real space. Am I about to be interrupted? Probably. Aha. 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 Okay, let me shake off the jitters. Like, this is literally me trying something new. Here goes nothing. Please don't come in here. Okay, let me literally calm down. Welcome back to another episode of Digging Deep. It is so lovely to have you. I am trying something new. I really hope you can tell a difference in the audio because I got a mic, y'all. I got a mic. And I'm so excited because I got a mic for Christmas, but I don't know what happened. I literally plugged it in. It flashed red once, and then I never was able to use it after that. So, I don't really know what happened there, but I got a real mic, and she sounds real crispy, and I hope you're enjoying the audio. I hope it translates well. This is my first time doing this, so again, bear with me, lots of growing to be happening, but I'm so lovely. What? I'm so excited that you're here today because, like I said, I'm trying something new where I'm filming the episodes because I've known this for a while, but the only way to really grow is if I over-promote myself on every platform, so prepare to be sick of me. I am really excited to talk about today's topic because it is all about bridging the gap between where you are now and where you want to end up. And that has been a really big theme for this chapter of my life. I sound like a broken record, but truly. And it's crazy because I was looking back in my old episodes and I made an episode called Be in the Happening a year ago. It was literally the second episode of Digging Deep ever. And that one was all about how to basically snap yourself into the present and stop always being so fixated on longing and the end goal and focus on the journey and enjoying where you are now. And I think it's very beautiful and serendipitous that those themes, even though it's a year later and I've done so much growth in this time, keep coming up. Because if we know one thing, it is that the universe will keep giving you lessons that you need to learn. And even if you feel like you've mastered it or mastered it to the level that you know of master at the time, you're going to keep receiving that message at different chapters of your life because you need a little refresher. So I hate long-winded intros, but I feel like I keep making them longer and longer as the weeks go on because I have so much to say. But thank you for being here, and without further ado, it is time to dig deep. Don't mind me flipping through my journal. I don't know if you can even hear that. How does this sound? Rate it in the comments. Also, please leave us, it's literally just me. Okay, we're getting cozy. Please leave me a review if you enjoy these episodes, and if you don't, you can leave me some constructive criticism. I could take it, but be kind because I'm sensitive. But yeah, please let me know how you're enjoying these because I say this every episode, but this is me building my empire. I want to make this into something. I kind of have an idea of what that is, but again, very much in the journey of it now and the start and the humble beginnings before the fruitful success, you know? So let me know on how I can improve and how I can better cater the episodes to things that you guys are going through, different themes in your life. And yeah, I think it's beautiful that we're all here and we have social media to connect with, and that's why I want to use it for that. Always. So, I couldn't help but wonder, how does one bridge the gap between where you are now and where you want to go? Very Carrie Bradshaw-esque. I've been back binging Sex and the City, and it's got the wheels turning. Things are moving up here, and I've been reading The Atlantic, reading The Cut, reading Pew Research. I have been looking up things for fun now, and it's very exciting, and it's led me to this pursuit of answers for this chapter. Our early 20s, at least how it feels for me, and me and my best friend Layla, we talked about this briefly recently, it feels like you're in the awkward tween phase. And I want to reference Inside Out too, because that movie is about a young teenage girl coming into her new self, so to speak, but she still very much is building that new identity. She doesn't know who she is. She's not fully established in that, but she's trying, and she feels so lost and uncomfortable. And that movie rocked my world because it is exactly what I'm feeling. And it's so crazy, the parallels between being in your tweens, like you're 9, 10, 11, and 12, like you're not a teenager yet, but you're also not just like a little kid anymore. Like, you want to do more, but the universe and the world is like, well, you can't yet. Like, calm down, baby. You're not that old yet. But all of that to say that it parallels your early 20s very much, because you're still like this baby adult, right? You're coming out of your shell. You're trying to learn how to exist as your own developed individual, but you're still developing. And a lot of the times, older, more established adults will disregard you or say that you don't know anything and invalidate almost your sense of adulthood, but you feel so disconnected from being a teenager and from being like the high school scene of it all. So it's like, where do I exist? It's like this weird liminal floating space of in between. And so many of us are there, which is why it's so important to talk about it, because you're not the only one going through that. I'm not the only 20-year-old. I'm not the only freshly starting out my adult life. There are billions of people in the world that are in this phase, just not everybody talks about it. Not everybody goes to Amazon and gets a mic and decides to put their content out in the world. And that's fine. That is fine. That is fine. That is fine. That's fine. But I'm just saying that to hopefully remind you that you are not alone. So many of us are confused on what we're doing. And that doesn't mean that you're behind. That doesn't mean that you're failing. That doesn't mean that you will never succeed. It just means that you're in the happening. It means that it's building. It means that you still have so much time to see how this all turns out. And it's really hard to have that perspective when you don't have that big accomplishment or that big milestone to be like, oh, everything that I just did, oh, it paid off because I have this. Everything that I just sacrificed, all of the heartache, all of the loneliness, all of the pain, all of the uncomfortability was for a purpose because I have this now. But when you don't have the thing to show for it, it's like, well, what are we doing here? What's all this work for? But I am coming to realize that, and also, this is crazy because I'm just flowing right now. Like, I have a whole notebook of things, but I'm just going off the dome. I need to do this more often. Thank you. But all that to say, I am realizing so much recently how important it is to, one, show gratitude for where you're at, because you're never going to be this young again. And I always say that I'm in my grandma era because I feel so old, but I'm so young. That's just how I am. But I'll never be this young again, so I need to slow down. And like that Rumi, I can't remember her last name, that Rumi quote where it's like, I'll never be this young again, or I'll never have this version of myself again. Let me slow down and be with her. It's that theme. Let me slow down, and even though there are so many things that I want, so many things that I have yet to experience, I will never be here again. And when I have those things, I will probably be longing for this slower chapter of my life. So let me slow down and actually take it all in. And another thing is, the only way to get to where you want to go is to embody those traits and feelings now. The only way to bridge that gap is to find little ways, whether that's through your habits, your routines, the people you socialize with, the places you go, the content you consume, that's a big one. That is going to make up your days, and your days make up your life. And there's this really cool quote in the book Atomic Habits, and I want to preface, because I'm not even going front. I'm not reading that book. I've tried all year, and it hasn't really clicked. But I have had some moments in that book where I'm like, that will be getting highlighted and referenced till people are sick of hearing it from me. And the quote there is really reflecting and asking yourself, when you are doing certain habits and seeing how they actually manifest in your life, whether that's satisfying you or if it's making you unhappy or making you feel restless and like you're wanting to escape your life. Taking a step back when you're in those moments and asking yourself, does this habit cast a vote for or against my desired identity? So embodying the person that you want to become starts with, foundationally, your habits. Your habits are the way in which you show up for yourself and the way in which you live your life. And I saw another quote. It was in the book, and also I saw it on a We the Urban quote. It is that, allow yourself occasional lapses without giving up entirely. Perfect isn't the goal. Continuity is. It's not about always being perfect, always being disciplined, always doing the crazy thing. It's not always about that. But what it is about is showing up. And that can be little things every single day. And that just reminded me of one of the 4 agreements, which is always do your best. You can never do more or less than that. And as long as you're giving your best, even if that's 50% one day, 60% one day, maybe even 30 one day, give 100% of that percentage that you have. And inadequacy and feeling like you're not enough, that's going to come up. And I'm starting to realize that you can't ever fully get away from that. That's just part of the process. But that doesn't mean that when you feel those things, you have to throw in the towel and say, oh, well, I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to amount to anything. No, that's actually just part of being human. No, that's actually here for a reason, actually. Hey, so let me hold your hand when I say this. The only way to get through those things is by feeling them, and you have to experience those in order to appreciate the big moments when you get to them. I know it's kind of like not sold to us when we come down from floating in outer space and being just balls of bursting possibility and balls of light. We're not sold that we're going to feel shame and existential dread, because chances are we probably wouldn't take that risk and come down here, but that's the beauty of it all. Is that we get to experience those things. It is a gift, and it doesn't feel like it in the moment, let me tell you. That stuff hurts. But, and I'm so annoyed at myself because I'm about to reference one of my episodes, but hey, it hurts. But the only way to heal is to feel. That is a reference to Feel to Heal, episode by Janetta Diggs, Digging Deep. I don't know the number, but it is in there if you look. The only way to heal and to push yourself past where you are now and closer to where you want to be is to feel it. Feel the uncomfortability, lean into the dissatisfaction of where you are now, and try to cultivate an awareness of your habits that will get you to where you want to be. I'm seeing like gym bros walking past me right now, and I'm like, hey, don't mind me, just filming my podcast. And a big part of radical acceptance is also reminding yourself that you're not stuck there. Everything is ebbing and flowing, and things will visit us to give us a little reminder of like, hey, like you're on the right path, or hey, maybe try a little harder in this area, or hey, maybe scratch that idea completely and try something new. That one's not working, but I think if you try this, you'll be successful. Knowing that nothing is final. If you're in a phase where it feels very stagnant, very not linear in a positive sloping way, not me bringing up math. If life feels very stagnant though, just like a straight line, no high points, no going higher, nothing moving, know that there will be a time when you do take a little direct incline, you get some rising action, you hit the climax, so to speak. Know that nothing is linear, nothing is final. And the journey to where you want to go is not going to be linear. And a lot of people do not talk about that non-linear trajectory. There's going to be bumps on the road. But just because you're driving and you hit a speed bump doesn't mean, oh, I need to get off the road. I need to completely turn my vehicle off, go stay at home, and never leave my house again. That's not the message here. The message is accept the roadblocks, accept the speed bumps, and just take a little detour. Follow that. Go over it slowly instead. Like, create a different approach to going over those speed bumps. That way maybe you don't wreck your vehicle. Maybe you don't have to, spend $25,000. What? Maybe you don't have to spend thousands of dollars to fix your car. Maybe it's just, let me slow down. Let me navigate how to go over this bump. I hope you're tracking me. I hope what I'm saying is being picked up a little bit. And I want to reference a moment that I had at the end of July. And just to give a little insight on my specific happenings right now, I recently just took on a position as a preschool teacher. And for more context, if you're new here, I have always been married to the idea that I would be a nurse. In high school, I took this kind of like a trade school almost type vibe where I got my certified nursing assistant license, and I was so excited because that was the future and the path that I was on at the time, and I thought that I was locking myself into a very lucrative career, and that just didn't work. I got that licensing. I wasn't able to use it directly out of high school like I planned, which was already kind of like dang it. And then I started attending a university, typical four-year university, and one that was already kind of a not where I want to be moment because I really wanted to go out of state. for college, but I ended up going to an in-state university, whatever. Started taking classes there, went a whole year under the pre-nursing major, and just failure after failure, like quite literally. Never in my life before have I ever failed a class, and it was a very constant thing in that chapter of my life. And it's so weird talking about it now, like I'm like so old, but I'm still like far removed from that experience. Granted, I loved the lessons that came from it, but I never faced failure in that way before, and it was very hard to manage because I built this up in my head for so long that this is what I'm meant to do. I'm going to be a nurse. I want to be a travel nurse. I have my career set. That's the life I'm going to live. That's the lifestyle. After I graduate, I'm going to go to Hawaii. Like all these things. The life that I had dreamed for myself was set. I knew what I wanted. I knew how I was going to get there. But when it was time for me to actually like do it, it's not that I couldn't, but it just wasn't the right way to use my skills, my unique, specific to me tool set of capabilities and things that best put my skills to use. That was not the place. And in the moment, I didn't realize that because I was just like, well, even though I failed this, let me try an even harder class because that's going to work surely. Girl, no. But it's okay. We went through that. We were humbled, but I needed to be humbled to know something else will work. And that was a really long-winded spiel, a little bit of background on me. But like I said, I am now a preschool teacher, and in order to get there, I started working at a gym and in the kids club area. And it's so funny because I always say that EOS Fitness Kids Club changed my life, and I will say that forever because it showed me how much I love making an impact in people's lives, specifically children, because they're the most precious, purest, so wholesome human beings, and they have such a beautiful outlook on life, and in being able to be around that all the time and help them on their growth is the greatest gift of my entire life. So I did not know a year ago that I would be doing this. I did not know 2 months ago even that I would be doing this at all. And it's crazy because this moment that I had at the end of July, it was after a week of teacher training, and this is a very fresh, new career field for me. I literally made this switch less than a year ago, and I'm already being able to work in the field, which I simply could not be more grateful for. Like, that is so beautifully, divinely guided, and I'm, like, I could cry just thinking about it, but it came with a lot of unexpected unreadiness, a lot of feelings of unworthiness, feeling like, y'all sure? Should I really be doing this? But it's like, I know I can do it. It's just about tapping into that version of myself that is fully confident and can stand sure in myself. And while I was having this breakdown, it's so funny because, one, I'm dramatic. But two, looking back, I'm like, no, that had to happen. No, that was what I needed to do and what I needed to feel. In that moment, I was crying, yada, 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 watching a bunch of videos on, like, the psychology of children and, like, watching, like, motivational TED Talks about the purpose of teachers. Like, that's what goes in my brain when I spiral. Like, I see it all, I read it all, I do it all. And I was scrolling on Instagram, of all places, and I saw this post that was talking about going from a caterpillar to a butterfly. And can't believe I didn't already say this, but another added layer to why this is so significant is because the room, or like the theme of the room that I was placed in this year, are called caterpillars. Keep with me. And in this Instagram post, I'm not going to say it perfectly, but to summarize, it was basically saying, like, when I felt like I was dying, all along I was just becoming a butterfly. And in the first slide, it shows a caterpillar, a beautifully colorful caterpillar, saying, when I felt like I was dying. You swipe the next slide, it says, all along I was just becoming a butterfly. I would drop my mic, but I paid good money for this, and by good money I mean an Amazon gift card that I was gifted. Still good money though. But that was truly, like, the sparks went off in my brain, like, it all connected. All the lines were like, oh my goodness gracious. Like, I'm not dying, I'm not failing, I'm not behind even. I'm just growing into someone I've never been before. I'm not a failure. Getting out of that catastrophic thinking of, oh my gosh, I need to know it all right now, day one, or else I'm never going to amount to anything worthwhile. And it was just such a transformative moment that I've honestly been thinking of ever since, because when you are going in that phase of metamorphosis, it's really hard to see the end goal, and it's hard to champion yourself along the way because it feels so foreign, so uncomfortable. You're having to rewrite your values, your beliefs, things that you will tolerate, things that you want, and like actually walking away from things that don't serve the person you're becoming. And no one's going to hold your hand, really. You can have community, but at the end of the day, it's you that has to make that change happen. And when transforming from the caterpillar to the butterfly, you're going to shed your skin. You're going to be grieving versions of yourself that you no longer resonate with, but also being so confused on who this new version of you is. And I think that's okay. I think that's goosies. Oh my god, I feel like J-Lo. I just got goosies saying that. But I think that's the beauty of life. Like, we have so many periods where we're going to transform and we're going to become someone new, and that doesn't mean completely abandoning who you were before. There's nothing wrong with you now, but you don't always have to be that person. You get to redefine yourself and make new goals for yourself, new wants, new needs, because that's important as well. You get to kind of be the writer of your own story, not to be cheesy or anything, but truly, you are the one writing it. So fill those pages with things that you like to see, things that are entertaining, and be really, really kind to yourself along the way, because you've never done this before. You don't. Like, no one's ever lived your life in your shoes and your exact situation. You're the first and only one to ever do it. So instead of being so hard on yourself and saying, I need to be perfect, I need to know what I'm doing, understand that it's your first time out here, and you have to be the caterpillar before you can be the butterfly. Something that I reminded myself of that whole week, and still, even now, like, I'm still very much in the early stages of this new position. Every single day, I'm reminding myself, it is okay to be a beginner. Hey, it's okay if I look like a chicken with my head. What? I look like a chicken? Yeah, a chicken with my head cut off. I think that's how that goes. Like, I'm running around crazy. And working with kids, I don't know if this resonates for anybody else, but working with them, I have to remind myself too that, like, for me, it feels like so, like, high stakes and, like, so, like, anxiety inducing, and, like, I have to be on my thing, like, all the time, and I have to have it perfect, which we're unpacking that. But to them, this is their childhood. They're not going to remember me being flustered, me dropping a bucket of Legos and having to take extra 2 minutes to pick them up. They're just going to remember having fun. They're going to remember getting to spend time with their friends. They're going to remember doing art that day. Like, they won't see it the same way you see it. They're not judging you the same way that you're judging yourself. And even adult to adult, no one is, like, zoomed in on your life as much as you are. And that can alleviate a lot of the pressure, because no one is really judging you as harshly as you're judging yourself. But also, there's this weird, like, paradox where we're so used to ourselves, and we're so used to our day-to-day, and are so used to our routine and living in our lives every single day, because we do it every single day, that we don't give ourselves enough credit when we have grown, when we have, you know, maybe reacted to a situation different than when it was originally presented. Like, that in itself is such a commendable thing and such a beautiful milestone. Like, and something that I've had to really, really, really accept is that no one else is going to see that always. And probably not ever. And not in a bad way, because you see it. You're with yourself all the time. You're the one that lives in your life, lives in your shoes, operates from this avatar. I'm doing the robot right now. But you're the only one that's going to see those wins. So, like, hype yourself up. That's not conceited. That's not selfish. Maybe it is selfish, but not in a bad way. You're allowed to be proud of yourself and to cheer yourself on, because it is hard to have that urge to react in a way that you're so used to, but being like, no, I'm not that anymore. No, I don't resonate with that. And, like, fight, like, your old self and, like, emerge as this new person in that moment of, like, okay, I've seen how that doesn't work before, so let me, like, really be present here and let me see how I can react different to get, hopefully, a different and better outcome. I'm gonna have to cut this out, but yeah. Really, 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 really ground yourself in the understanding that in order to be this beautifully colorful, vibrant butterfly, you have to. Like, it's quite literally impossible to avoid this step. You have to be the caterpillar first. You have to go through being a beginner with knowing nothing, not even nothing, but just knowing significantly less than everybody else, because a lot of times, like especially in your early 20s, you're going to be entering these fields where you may be the youngest one, which means you know the least. But instead of viewing that as, oh my gosh, I know nothing, instead it could be, oh my gosh, I have so much to learn. Like, what can I do to learn from the people that have been here so long, who have been here before me, who have done this? They've been a beginner, they've gone through that, and now they're an expert, or they're just further along. Instead of like shaming yourself for being a beginner, because we literally all have to go through it, instead have an optimistic and more positive connotation to what it means to be a beginner. That truly just means you have the most to learn, and how wonderful is that? Because you're more open-minded, you're not super closed off, you're willing to hear opinions from other people that maybe you wouldn't usually gravitate towards, but it's like you have so much to learn from everybody, so why not just ask questions and just be a learner and a student of life to everybody, literally everybody. That's like one of my favorite things, is just always staying curious and seeing how someone else has done it and then maybe applying that to your own situation. It's not a bad thing to be a beginner. It's not a bad thing to maybe not always speak up because you don't know exactly what to say, because you don't think you'll have the right words. Like, sometimes you do need to have those periods where you're just sitting and listening and taking it all in and trying, and maybe when you try it, you don't do it like the other person and it doesn't work. And that's okay. Like, try again and keep going until something sticks, because eventually something will stick. And it's not always going to be like a big firework goes off, people bring you a cake, like there's a big celebration type of moment. But again, find ways to win in your everyday, like little things. Something that recently happened for me, specifically in context to teaching, that was like a very big win, and I'm like, ooh, we're getting somewhere, is just when my kids call me funny. It could really be as simple as that. It's like, oh, like, you guys are comfortable with me now. Like, we're friends now. Like, it's just little things like that you can get so in your head about, of like, oh my gosh, how am I going to tackle this, of building the most amazing relationship and me being their favorite person and like being the best at everything ever, always, and never stumbling and always knowing what to say. Like, it's not about that. It's about how you can win in your little everyday, and just practicing gratitude for the little things, truly, and like letting yourself feel it when it is good, because like I said earlier, everything's going to ebb and flow. You're not stuck there. So yeah, you may be feeling great, but you're also going to have hard days, and that doesn't mean that you have a hard life, but you're going to have hard days, and you're going to have to find a way to get through those hard days so you can get to more good days. And that sounded so meta, but hey, you really do have to embrace the journey and build yourself up, because if you are so hard on yourself and so fixated on being this quote-unquote perfect person, there's absolutely no way you're ever going to bridge that gap and lessen it to get closer to where you want to be. And another big theme that I want to remind us all of is that, and again, I did in fact see this on Instagram, but it just affirmed something that I've been feeling, but I couldn't really put into words. So thank you, Instagram Explore Page Baddies, for that one. But it is the theme that being and becoming are the same. One does not exist without the other. They are quite literally the same, and it's about your perspective, right? If you're always focused on, I'll be happy when I get XYZ, I'll feel this way when I get this, oh, one day I'll have this, I can only be happy then. Like, in that pursuit of getting that thing and being that person, like, you're still living, you're still here, so you have to find a way to make where you are now enjoyable. And in order to become, you have to embody those things now. Do you see how it's all connected? Like, it's literally all connected. The only way to become is to act as if you already are. Yeah. And this is not like a revolutionary idea by any means, but I am a firm believer that it takes like 1,000 times hearing the same thing in different forms, in different fonts, in different words, in different forms to get it. And just let my old episode be a reminder, and I've made plenty of episodes with that same theme of enjoy the journey. Forgive me for this angle changing like 80 billion times. I keep like doing my normal motions because when I talk, I'm a very like handsy person, and my phone keeps flying over, of course, because girl, we're balancing on a single cord. Like, let me calm down. But where was I? Radical acceptance, right? It's that weird gray area that no one really talks about of I haven't failed majorly yet, because we have that hyper awareness of, these things could go south. They could take a turn for the worst at any given moment. So knowing that nothing is final, right? So I haven't failed yet, but I also am not wildly successful yet. It's the power of yet. With building a bridge to connect where you are now and to where you want to go, you have to also build resilience. And for me personally, like I've been searching for so many like journal essays, video essays, podcast episodes touching on the idea of being in a waiting season. And it's really interesting because, and I want to give a disclaimer, I don't know if this is weird to talk about, but like religion and stuff, I'll get into that. Anyways, I have seen a lot of the content that has that theme of being in a waiting season. It references God, a lot of it. And I believe in something. I don't really know what that something is, but I know that there's gotta be an answer to why we're all here. I just can't think that there isn't. But I think it's really wholesome that when we don't really know what's going on, we turn to that. We're like, well, I may not know, but someone does. Someone brought me here for a reason. Like, there has to be some meaning to my existence and to this chapter in my life specifically, even though it's slow, even though there's a lack of clarity, there's a big emphasis of uncertainty. Something, someone, somewhere, somehow is divinely orchestrating the stars aligning, orchestrating the invisible string closing. And to get into invisible string, there's so much happening in my brain all the time. Oh my gosh, like there's so much I have in my notebook that I want to touch on, but I haven't even said it yet, and we're probably already 30 minutes in. I'm probably going to make this a 2-part thing because I just love this concept right now of like analyzing happiness and fulfillment and what success looks like, especially in a new generation. Before I get too ahead of myself, invisible string. I saw this video by Haley Hoffman. I love her. She's a beautiful speaker, and she has a podcast, and she just posts really insightful like spirituality, mental health content. Anyways, I saw her video the other day, which everything is always given to me at the perfect time, and she was talking about the idea of trusting in your invisible string when it's invisible. If you don't know what the invisible string theory is, it is essentially the idea that the universe, spirit, whatever you believe in, has placed these things in your path that you don't see, that are already in your reality, that haven't really come to the forefront of your reality yet, but one day that gap between the strings is going to close and it will be in your face, be in front of you. And I was first introduced to this by the Taylor Swift song, Duh, of like, she says, isn't it just so pretty? Oh my gosh, me forgetting the lyrics. Isn't it just so pretty? All along there was an invisible string tying you to me. Like, and I like to think about life in that way, like not only in the context of a person, like a future partner, but friendships even, like people that I haven't even met yet that I'm connected to by a string that is one day going to make itself apparent to me, or a career, a home, a place even. Like, there are different ways in which our invisible strings unfold that are not just romantic, which is like the usual context that we like to see them in, but it's like, how can I trust in that when it's invisible, right? Like, I don't see them yet. Like, physically, I don't have strings pulling me in any way physically, but metaphorically speaking, there are always going to be invisible strings. Like, there are always things that are connecting us to this life that we feel so deeply called to, that we don't see yet, but it's in showing up in your day-to-day, it's in showing up in your reality now that is going to reel those strings in. It's going to connect them. And it's about believing in what you can't see. And a lot of times with the reference of waiting seasons, faith is what comes up. And I'm not here to tell you what to believe in. I think that is such a deeply personal thing that you have to go through on your own. But it's just the idea of believing in something, believing in a greater good, believing in the possibility that things will go right, the possibility that you will get exactly what you yearn for, exactly what you're working so hard to get. And in that pursuit is feelings of being stuck, feeling like you're stagnant, and recognizing that it's not going to last forever, and that all of us, quite literally all of us, no matter how young or old, but I'm specifically talking to my 20-somethings, even more specifically my early 20s, because that in itself is so awkward. We're all going through it. Even the people that you see that look like they have their lives put together, they're working their big girl job, they're in a long-term relationship, and I'm not trying to be cynical and say that there's always flaws, but there's always things that you don't see, and there's always little imperfections, and that doesn't make it wrong or bad or not worth having, but it's just proof that we're all human. One of my favorite Brené Brown quotes is that our imperfections are not inadequacies, they're just proof that we're human. And even further on top of that, a big emotion that comes up in this journey and acceptance of this in-between and this waiting is shame. We expect ourselves to be fully established and fully actualized before we even step into that space where we would need to be that version of ourselves. For example, me being in the education field, I have not taught a day, well, let me not lie. I have taught dance, but I haven't taught curriculum, school structured type things. And so, of course, I'm not going to know what I'm doing yet. Of course, I'm going to have to practice and probably stumble over my words and look like a fool dancing to Wheels on the Bus to preschoolers every day to try to get them engaged. Of course, I'm going to have to go through that in order to feel confident. And you can't just fast track it to the end goal. You have to go through those steps. And you can't shame yourself on the way. You can't say, well, I wish you knew that. Well, I should know this already. Well, they know it. Why don't I? Well, they do it like this. Well, they do it quote unquote perfectly because we're so easy to give other people the benefit of the doubt and not extend that to ourselves. Instead, just be like, I'm a beginner, and that's okay. They were a beginner once. They're not a beginner now, but we're on different chapters. They're on a different page in their book. Maybe they're on a different book even. Maybe they're on their second edition and I'm just on my first release. We don't know. So stop. Let me stop you right there. Calm down. Because what shame does is it makes us feel like we can't move. It makes us feel like everybody's looking at us in the way that we're looking at ourselves. And it makes us feel like, oh, we're never going to get there. We have to first, acknowledge that it exists, acknowledge that it's there, but not let it rule our existence. Because like Brené Brown says, to feel shame is to be human. To be embarrassed, to feel like a fool, is to be human. We all feel it at some point in varying degrees. A big part of this episode and the purpose of why I made this is because I want to give us actionable steps of how we can move through these big themes. So I want to give us 5 journal prompts on how we can actively work through shame and embody your desires, bridge the gap between where you are now and where you want to go. So first, ask yourself, what are my beliefs? And this is all coming from the mindset of who you want to be, that idealistic version of yourself that exists within you now. What are your beliefs? And it can be very fun, kind of reassessing what you want and how to build that. Where do you live? How do you unwind and what do you do for fun? What are your relationships like? And what is your morning and night routine? Because if you piece all those things together, you have a life. You have a whole life, and your habits build your life. Your habits build your routines, and your routines build your life. And so being very mindful about what we're doing in those day-to-day things that can so easily just be seen as an end, and so easily be seen as a means to an end, but really it's about the intention behind it. And if it's something we have to do every day, or rather we get to do every day, how can we make it enjoyable? And I want to touch on this study that I saw, or this article that I saw. It was by The Atlantic. It was talking about this modern day obsession with doing more, and it's talking about how to be less busy and more happy. It says that 52% of Americans are usually trying to do more than one thing at a time, and 60% sometimes feel too busy to even enjoy their life. And that was taken from a Pew Research Center study. It's really interesting because this article dissects the idea of having more free time, more time to goof off, as it says, or like lollygag and like do quite literally nothing. But that can also make us feel very lacking in purpose and feeling like we're not doing anything with our time. But it also builds on the idea that we need that. We need that free time, and we need the space to do nothing to really tap into our flow state. And Brené Brown talks about this in her book, talking about stillness. And something that I've seen to be true in my like current situation is the idea of flow state. And it's really funny because I finally started going to yoga, and it's really making a difference. But flow state is when we don't feel the need to fill our calendars up with everything, filling up our to-do list with everything, and just letting the universe surprise us and show up for us, and seeing how things naturally come into our life as they're meant to. And that doesn't mean we don't have free will. That doesn't mean we don't actively take steps to get those things, but it means that we're open to what's coming. We're open to maybe the way in which it happens. Maybe it's the same end goal, but it's not the road that we thought we would take. Maybe we thought we would take a right here, but we ended up taking a left like 3 stops down. You never know. You never know. And it says that the University of Pennsylvania and UCLA calculated the well-being levels of people with different amounts of time to use at their own discretion. The researchers found that the optimal number of free time hours in a working day was 9.5. And when I first read that, I'm like, that's like the amount of time that I'm up in a day. Like, there's no way that we would actually want that much free time. And it says that more than half of the people's time awake. So those hours are crazy. But the average number of discretionary hours that we're getting is 1.8. Meaning, we are significantly lacking free time, play, and flow state in our everyday lives. And that is a big way of getting from where you are now to where you want to be, is accepting the stages where it feels kind of like lulled out and you're not doing much. That's where so much creation and playfulness happens. When we are underoccupied, it says that a set of brain structures called the default mode network is activated with behavioral effects that can be associated with rumination and self-preoccupation. We overcorrect boredom by filling up our to-do list because we're so scared of having nothing to do, or in this specific instance, being in a waiting season, that we actually end up overbooking ourselves, and that creates its own set of problems of having too much busyness. And all of these things connect back to accepting where you are now and building habits that positively push you in the direction of where you want to go. And a few emotions that also come up that were mentioned in this article, and also in Inside Out too, and just in general that I want to touch on real quick, are ennui, which is the feeling of listlessness and dissatisfaction arising from a lack of occupation or excitement, which can also be termed as boredom. Just feeling very bleh. Like, as it's described in the movie and as it's portrayed, it's like very just like nonchalant, not fazed by anything, nothing makes it happy, and nothing excites it. And another emotion that happens at this time of waiting or just feeling very stagnant is disillusionment, which is feeling a disappointment resulting from discovery that something is not as good as one believed. And that comes from setting super high expectations and them not really meeting them, or not meeting them in the way that you thought. So a big part of radical acceptance is knowing that it's not going to happen the way that you thought, but that doesn't make it any less meaningful. Redefining your goals, redefining the track to getting those, and accepting exactly where you are now. Because where you are now is where you're meant to be. Because if you were meant to be anywhere else, you would already be there. You have to be the caterpillar before you can be the butterfly. You have to crawl before you can walk. You have to walk before you can run. You have to take these baby steps in order to get to these big mountaintops. And I always bring it back to nature. A big part of the theme of this season is blooming, and in nature we look at flowers, right? They have to contract, they have to lose their leaves, they have to shed a skin, if you're talking about a butterfly, in order to blossom and flourish. And if you look at the moon, she has to go through periods where she disappears for a little bit or where she's not fully lit up in order to get back to her full self. Everything is always ebbing and flowing in seasons, and if you're in a phase where you're just feeling like you're waiting for something good to happen or like your next big break or your big moment, take this time for what it is and really look for what this waiting, lulled out, stagnant period is teaching you. Because this whole past year for me has felt like a big waiting season, but I know that things are slowly going to start being answered, and not all at once, but slowly, and that's okay. So, I have another episode coming up very soon that we're going to be further dissecting this idea of bridging the gap between where you are now and where you want to go. So thank you so much for listening. Please, please, please give me some feedback, because this is my first time using a mic and recording these, and it still feels very scary and very shameful and very awkward, and I'm not the best at it yet, but we're getting there. So thank you for being here. I love you, and I will see you very soon. I can finally do a forehead kiss and you see me. Okay, bring it in. This is what I look like in my room every week. Mwah. Forehead kiss. That is so funny. Okay, I love you. I'll see you very soon. Bye. Thank you for digging deep with me.